Next up, we have Seele. So this is clearly another joke entry. We all know it. I all know it. Do I even need to say it? This is one of the most famous and popular Chinese cartoons of all time. Yep, that's right. The secret organization behind the events of Cory in the House. The Yellow Hats, fought over by Guanbo and CIA. The Yellow Hats here are, of course, reference to the Gelug sect in Tibetan Buddhism. This is the sect the Dalai Lama is the head of. On the other hand, Guanbo is another name for the Ministry of State Security in China. Basically, it's their version of the CIA. All this meme seems to be referencing is the Tibet CIA program, where both high-ranking native Tibetans became CIA assets and paramilitary operations were conducted to destabilize Chinese influence in the region. But what makes this esoteric? Well, each of the four major sects of Tibetan Buddhism is known for their own style of tantric meditation. Kagyu has Mahamudra, Sakya has Lamdre, Nyingma has Jogsen, and Gelug? Gelug is kind of a synthesis, as well as being one of the main proponents of the Kala Chakra Tantra. Why is this important? Well, it has to do with Shambhala. In Tibetan mytho-history, Shambhala is a magic kingdom/city that exists either in a higher plane or under the earth. The inhabitants are all said to be Mahasiddhis, meaning that the everyday normal geezer walking down the streets in Shambhala is a superhuman with magic powers. What has the Kala Chakra Tantra to do with this? Well, apparently some believe the Kala Chakra Tantra itself originates from within Shambhala, meaning that being initiated into said Kala Chakra Tantra ties you karmically to Shambhala. The meme text stating that Guanbo and CIA fought over the Yellow Hats may imply something greater than a mere struggle for political dominance of Tibet, but that there was a struggle between world governments over the ability to make contact with an underground race of super beings. Ramakrishna Mission, Ma Liberation Indeed. Founded during the British Raj by friend of Nikola Tesla and Freemason, Swami Vivekananda. He is one of the OGs that brought Advaita Vedanta and Raja Yoga to the West. Apparently, Vivi had both a photographic memory and was an expert speed reader. He finished all the Indian classics in his youth, and by his early 20s had absorbed a sizable amount of Western philosophy, specifically the works of David Hume, Immanuel Kant, Johann Gottlieb Fichte, Baruch Spinoza, based, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, oof, that would have been a tough one, Arthur Schopenhauer, based, Auguste Comte, also mega-based, very rare, you don't hear much about that anymore, and John Stuart Mill, solid. But back to the foundation. It was basically designed as an institution for the serious study of yoga, not the Lululemon type, but namely Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. For those who don't know, Karma Yoga is basically a study of moral codes and ethics that is supposed to change one's life through their own actions. Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of emotions and devotion, so think Catholicism but Eastern? Jnana Yoga is a sort of yoga of the mind that, if developed correctly, allows one direct knowledge of universal truth. And of course, Raja Yoga is the main form of training through the different stages laid out in the Yoga Sutras. It's this form of meditation, that is Raja Yoga specifically, that can be found being taught in Western schools even to this very day. Vivekananda's works also seem to have become an early source for both New Thought and Theosophic groups to pad out their own teachings with legitimate practices from the East. The thing in the meme about the Shastras appears to be the idea that the British rewrote the ancient Shastras to help create a set of legal principles that would assist them in controlling Indian society. The problem they found was there was no single body of canonical law, no Hindu pope to legitimize a uniform legal code for them. Even religious interpretations of popular epics like Ramayana failed because every community basically had freedom to write its own version. As such, the British just made up their own. The implications in the meme being the Rama Mission aided them in doing this. Though I couldn't actually find any historical evidence for this, but you never know. White Lotus. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to have to start a little further back. Persian Manichaean Gnosticism was a religion that spread from the Middle East all the way up into Europe before manifesting as the Cathars, and then finally being crushed by crusaders of the church. However, the Grand Master survived, and years later, a fusion of Italian Renaissance Hermeticism and native German mysticism birthed the Rosicrucian movement. Being in proximity and sharing members with Masonic lodges, strange hand signs permeated certain Rosicrucian groups. These hand signs continue to be used even to this very day. Now, Manichaeanism didn't just make it into Europe, but also travelled up the Silk Road and into China. There, the followers of the prophet Mani and the adherents of Pure Land Buddhism got along. Out of this union, a new syncretic tradition flourished, that of the White Lotus sect, which was completely suppressed during the Yuan dynasty. But hey, pressure makes diamonds. So instead of destroying the White Lotus sect, the suppression transformed it into a secret underground society that became the seedbed of revolution, which endured through multiple centuries. Nearer to contemporary times, the history of the White Lotus seems to be absorbed into the Heaven-Earth Society, which included the 5 elders who survived the burning of the Shaolin Temple. Masters surviving devastation? Huh. Anyway, it's known that this society was the precursor to the criminal organization known as the Triads. One of the historic myths describing the naming of said Triads tells of a colonial British officer noticing the Chinese using hand signs to communicate, one sign being described with 3 fingers extended. But that story is silly. You'd never see secret societies using hand signs. Duh. Nowadays, the White Lotus is remembered for their monks being characters in kung fu movies who hold mystical powers. How the mighty have fallen. Ynglism. Well, you may have heard of the term heathenry, or maybe more specifically, OCTRA. These words reference a pagan worship of Germanic or specifically Nordic gods. Well, the Slavic equivalent to these terms is rodnovery. You may have even brushed up against this without realizing it. Do you have a Russian friend that keeps trying to get you to read a book about how cedar trees are magic? Well, you've brushed up against a Rodnova movement without realizing it. As such, there are many flavors of rodnovery, Ynglingi being just one of them. Ynglism, or the ancient Russian Englist Church of the Orthodox Old Believers, is a movement founded in 1992 by Alexander Kinovich. To keep things short, basically just throw some theosophic cosmology in with some Gnostic theology, give it some Slavic Hyperborean spice, and add a special ingredient. And boom! Ynglism is born. The "only seems like a LARP to scare off normies" line in the meme is a bit of a weird statement. I would have thought LARP attracts normies via their very nature. In any sense, the statement is alluding to the fact that they have a public image that looks one way, but inside the order it looks very different. The phrase "will hold Archeum" is a reference to a 4,000-year-old archaeological site found in Russia that seems to have both Zoroastrian and Vedic influences. It has become a holy site for Ynglists, who believe it to be the very origin of the Slavic race itself. Before moving on, did you know your internet service provider can see everything you do? Meaning any hacker that gets into your mainframe can look up your search history. They know what your favorite anime is, who your personal waifu is, her specific age, and the exact length of her bulging futa cock. This is why you need NordVPN. Sorry, what was that? Oh, we're not going to get this sponsor? Oh. Okay, so apparently Nord isn't sponsoring this video, but if you still want to help out, you can donate to the creator directly by subscribing to his Ko-fi account. Any amount for continuous support or even a small one-time donation can help. Thank you for your patience. And back to the video. Hell yeah. I don't know about mescaline, but we got autism galore in this one. The Group is a short-lived Italian esoteric group technically founded by Julius Evola, but was allegedly the brainchild of the alchemist Arturo Regini. The group itself consisted of a diverse range of thinkers such as Freemasons, Hermeticists, Cremersians, Anthroposophists, psychoanalysts, esoteric poets, and neo-pagans alike. The group lasted for an incredibly short period of time. Some speculate this is due to members practicing a certain solar occult formula in an imbalanced way, which led to an excess of pride in each individual member. Cause of destruction? Titanic megalomania. This is of course speculation. I like the simpler explanation, that it was because each member was merely Italian and therefore refused to listen to rules.
Se io ho lasciato la donna a terra, ho lasciato la donna a terra. Giusto? Quindi tu gioca.
The group is survived by the 3-volume work Introduction to Magic, which is fundamentally a collection of essays written by members of the Group. These volumes are credited to Julius Evola, but it is suspect if any of the essays were actually penned by him. He is merely the compiler of the work, adding commentary when needed. I highly recommend this set to anyone at all wanting to walk the path of high magic, with the disclaimer being these books are definitely not an introduction to anything. They are at the very least intermediate level occultism, and at best constitute both a broad overview and a deep insight into an array of obscure mysteries that few ever touch on, let alone master. There are single essays in these books that are worth more than the entire price of whole collections of other occult works. Not to mention, if you do have an Italian heritage and are interested in the native Italian occultist tradition, this book is the perfect entryway into that world. I myself, through these essays, found the works of Massimo Scalighero, who I have come to consider a master of Western meditation and the tradition in general. It is a crime that only a few of his works can be found in English. If anyone out there is interested in translating and wants to do a work that will benefit all of humanity, please find and translate Scalighero's works into English. I am begging you.
You didn't have to cut me off. They gotta do this.
Yo, Robert Sefer fans, what's up? Before we talk about the Vril Society, we have to talk about the Thule Society. But to talk about the Thule Society, you gotta first mention its founder, Sir Bettendorf. Rudolf von Sir Bettendorf, Freemason, alleged Sufi, alchemist, and astrologer. He was one of those types that went to the East, learned supposed secrets, and returned to his homeland with a new doctrine. In this case, Sir Bettendorf came into contact with schools of Kabbalah, Sufism, and Freemasonry while living in Turkey. He claimed to have unlocked the key to self-realization, which he aimed to give not to his Sufi brethren or any practicing Christians, but to the materialists of his German homeland. The praxis appears to be a set of numerological exercises paired with mantras and Masonic hand positions reminiscent of the Kerning system. He released his system to the public under the title The Practice of the Ancient Turkish Freemasons, which nowadays is included in the text Secret Practices of the Sufi Freemasons. When Rudolf returned to Germany, he got involved with Volkish groups before eventually founding the Fool Society. At this point, it should be noted that Sir Bettendorf didn't necessarily care about politics. He remained somewhat indifferent his entire life, despite acting as an agent for Germany and Turkey during the Second World War. His handler would often comment that he was quite useless at his job, and he was thought to be a double agent, hence why he was probably unalived in 1946. Nonetheless, whether he encouraged it or not, the membership of the Fool Society was both working class and right-wing. This being Germany in the early 1900s, you can see where this is going. As the society grew, an inner, more esoteric section of the order developed. Orders within orders, secret societies within secret societies. You know how it goes. This inner, more occult section of the Fool Society was named the Vril Society. What is Vril? Vril is a secret energy harnessed by an underground race of superhumans who have psychic powers. And live in a matriarchal society. One day, this coming race will take over the surface of the Earth, and our new superhuman psychic mummy-dom rulers will bring world peace. Look it up. Needless to say, when a supposedly psychic and very intelligent/charismatic woman named Maria Orsic knocked on the doors of the Vril Society unannounced, claiming she was sent to lead them, everyone just shrugged their shoulders and said, seems legit. From this point on, the Vril Society was led by Vril maidens, who grew their hair long to enhance their psychic powers. The Vril maidens then psychically communicated with a completely different superhuman race that supposedly lived on a planet in the Aldebaran system, which is almost 69 light-years away. Look it up. This alien race of super-Aryans gave the Vril Society, and by extension the Nazis, superweapons such as flying saucers and possibly time machines. At the end of World War II, Maria Orsic left in a flying saucer back to the Aldebaran system. The rest of the Nazis either escaped to the underground civilization through an entrance found in Antarctica or traveled back in time to Atlantis. Everything I just said is something that some people take very seriously. Disclaimer. The following comes from poorly translated Google pages, as nothing is in English. Luis Felipe Sierras Moyano Roca, otherwise known as Nimrod de Rosario, was an Argentine founder of the Order of Knights Thyroidal from the Argentine Republic. Among his written works, you find titles such as Gnostic Fragments and The Foundations of Hyperborean Wisdom. Nimrod's work shows an influence of Gnosticism, specifically the neo-Gnostic doctrine of Samael Aun Weor, but mixed with esoteric National Socialism, thus creating his own system called Hyperborean Wisdom. He shared temporary correspondence with Miguel Serrano. Despite not being friends, they shared some ideas, but overall diverged in key areas. You see, Serrano was a supporter of the right-hand path, while Rosario walked with his staff in the left hand, so to speak. Rosario would go on to create his own society, the Order of the Knights Thyroidal, or simply Order Thyroidal, which some claim was a continuation of a sect called Anael's Lodge. Although the Thyroidal Order was eventually dissolved, different groups in Latin America have arisen and proclaimed themselves as his successors. A few such groups are as follows: Gustavo Brondino's OCTRA, Pablo Santa Cruz's Vrilism, which openly promotes the use of drugs and alternative sex magic as a mystical path, and still others like Primordial Gnosis of Mexico, founded by Guerrero Aragon, who also promotes Discordianism and is anti-fascist. The Hyperborean wisdom developed by Rosario extracts its name from Hyperborea, a place that, according to Rosario himself, has never been a real physical place, but nonetheless has always existed and will continue to exist in a higher spiritual plane. This Hyperborean wisdom is followed by different Gnostic groups independent of each other. It is founded on a vision of a mytho-historical struggle between the Virayas, also called Navutan. These Navutan serve a Wotan Lucifer in a war against the demiurge creator of the material universe and his servants, the Archons. The postulates of Hyperborean wisdom include, but are not limited to: 1. Atlantis was destroyed in the confrontation between the liberating gods and the treacherous gods that chained the spirit to the earth. Okay. 2. White Atlanteans spread throughout the world after the fall of Atlantis, having as a mission to fulfill a blood pact with the liberating gods, fighting as warriors. Opposed to these, the Moorish Atlanteans made a cultural pact with the traitorous gods, officiating as priests. I guess you can see the National Socialism coming in here. 3. There is a guardian family lineage of the Grail. The Grail itself being a giant gemstone which originally fell from the crown of Christos Lucifer, that travels in reverse time from future to past. And I can't really tell if this is the gemstone, like the Grail travels from future to past, or the Christos Lucifer is a being that travels from future to past. He's not really clear on that. Anyway, this lineage known as the House of Tharsis, for most of history is said to have inhabited the region of Tartessos in the Iberian Peninsula. 4. The spiritual seat of the loyal gods who assist the Navutan in liberating spirits from matter is found in Agartha. 5. Conversely, the traitor gods and the high archons who serve the demiurge, who is called Jehovah Satan, are located in Shambhala and call themselves the White Fraternity. Oh boy. 6. The demiurge's servants adore him in the form of Moloch. Hence the Phoenicians and Carthaginians were followers of the demiurge and enemies of the House of Tharsis. Guess that makes the Romans the good guys? 7. The demiurge selects the Jews as the chosen ones, choosing Israel as their nation, before which other nations must humble themselves and be at the service of the demiurge. I guess Rosario supports Palestine? 8. The Templars practiced the cult of the demiurge, Jehovah Satan. Among other things, they performed masses in Hebrew worshipping an hermaphroditic idol called Baphomet, whose real name was Bera. This organization was at the service of the White Fraternity, who are the bad guys, as immediate subordinates of Bera and Bursa. Their persecution and suppression was carried out by those loyal to the House of Tharsis. So the church is loyal to the House of Tharsis. Thus preventing the Templars from imposing the financial and military base of a world government. From the Templars we derive the Freemasons, so I guess Rosario doesn't like Freemasons. 9. The Dominican Order was made up of stone men and initiates, including members of the House of Tharsis, in the service of the Wotan Lucifer, whose forces that opposed the demiurge. Likewise, the Inquisition, controlled for a short time by the Dominicans, was used to fight Jews, Templars, and monastic orders in the service of golems. Now, you're probably thinking the same thing as me. What did I just read? This is clearly an inverted occult fanfic, which seems to just exist to Uno reverse card every conspiracy theory just to seem a little extra edgy. Good lord, why is this even here? It's clearly left hand, not right hand. I mean, I guess it's anti-demiurge, but maybe because they think the church are the good guys, it shifts it on the compass over to the right. Anyway, this is just one of the wacky ones, okay? It makes Serrano look sane, and that's saying something.
Dorime, interimo ad appare dorime, ameno, ameno.
Do we really have to do this one? For those who don't know, POS is allegedly a secret society dedicated to guarding the whereabouts and safety of the bloodline of Jesus of Nazareth. Supposedly, they're at war with the Freemasons or Jesuits who want to kill off the bloodline so that they can remain with a monopoly of power. Literally the Da Vinci Code plot. Jesus' bloodline exists in some European king lineages somewhere, so the POS is supposed to be a chivalric order of knights who secretly guard and protect the descendants of Christ from hidden enemies. Something something Dead Sea Scrolls, something something secret knowledge, maybe Gnostics, meh, you know where this is going.